You know, Swaneng Hill, the vision lives on. Let me take this opportunity to welcome to the stage a representative of the first generational group, the founder of what is now a decorated Swaneng. Repito nako ke a gago.
Ke a leboga motsamaisa tiro. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I have been Thank you. I've been asked to relate as to what happened during the early days of Swaneng Hill School. And these are my few remarks. I first met Re Patrick van Rensburg in 1962 when I was still a pupil at Simon Rachusa Primary School. By then, the primary school education started with sub-standards, sub-A, sub-B, and then 1 and upwards. And Mr. van Rensburg came with his wife, and they taught briefly at Simon Rachusa Primary School. And I happened to be in the class, the standard 6 class that they taught. It was the time when we still had a great shortage of secondary schools in Botswana, the then Bechuanaland Protectorate. And I was fortunate to be one of the first students to be taught at standard 6 by Patrick van Rensburg and his wife Liz. We had gardening classes at that primary school. And I remember vividly an occasion where we spent almost half the afternoon at the school garden. And it was during the occasion when John F. Kennedy and the Russian premier had strongest arguments when socialism was meant to versus capitalism. And we spent the whole day pondering as to what was going to happen. And Mr. van Rensburg took his time to brief us on what was happening between the 2 points, capitalism and socialism. Capitalism advocated by former President John F. Kennedy, and the Russian premier was Nikita Khrushchev. He briefed us on the possibilities of the outcome of that war should it take place. That was my first exposure internationally, so to speak, because he briefed us as to what could be the consequences should that war take place. And I then gathered the first exposure. This was our year to write our examinations. And he later told us that he wanted to start a secondary school in Serowe. And Jose Rasibolai Kamani was heading the tribal administration at the time. However, we were lucky. We were unknowingly lucky to be the first students to be under the hands of this man called Patrick van Rensburg, who had just come from Central Africa, where he was a diplomat under the South African then regime. By so I say lucky because it was the beginning of the history of Swaneng, which later had so much impact, as Mrs. Vanson has said, on the educational system of this country. Let me leave the history aside and indicate that the luckiness comes from this respect. In order to be fully educated, that's the concept that Van Rensburg had in mind. You must be able to use your head, your hands, and your heart. As Booker T. Washington used to say. And he told us that he wanted to come and build a school, but he did not have enough funds. The little funds he had were from donor agencies, and much had to be done by the students themselves. And we decided we were going to be company to work with Mr. Van Rensburg. So my classmates and I came here each weekend to come and start clearing the grounds for Swaneng Hill School. That was the beginning of voluntary work at this school. He had the belief that for people to learn by the head, by the hands, they have to do things themselves to know the intricacies involved in what they are doing and what they are learning. I must say, at the beginning, there were many doubts in the minds of not only us, the students, but our community leaders as well. However, a few of us came and started to clear the grounds. By then, the Van Rensburg family were accommodated by the Mataboga family, just next door. So every weekend, we used to come to clear the grounds and do voluntary work, as we called it. That was the beginning of how Swaneng was to be. It was to be built by the students themselves, so that they know the costs of providing a school. This was a strong motivation for us, and I'm glad and appreciative of the fact that I was lucky to be one of those early students because of the many things that I learned from here. There were many things that came as a result of this voluntary work. We had to search for similar undertakings in the country and take cognizance of the great shortage of secondary education institutions in the country. So we associated ourselves with where there was a need for secondary education. By then, there were only a handful of secondary schools. If I were to remember, in the north, there was Matters Bay College at Francistown. There was Isang Secondary School at Muchudi. There was another college at Mulepolole, where we later had to go and assist our fellow students to build their own schools. But Barechu, the main thing I want to emphasize is that we started to learn to do things for ourselves if we are to achieve any meaningful education. This is the foundation that I want to emphasize about Swaneng. I remember at that time, there was a book that encouraged us, a book by Booker T. Washington, who gave a story about how he started to make others work to better themselves. A group of his students who got lost in the sea and could not know the direction at a later stage, who sent a message to say, help, we need help. And a message came from somewhere to say, put your bucket where you are and draw water to drink. And this is the message that prevailed in Swaneng School. We had to do that in order to get ourselves educated. Yeah. And that was actually the beginning of voluntary work at school. We had to dig to put our bucket and dig out water in order to quench our education thirst. As a result of that, voluntary work became the norm in Swaneng, and we had to go out to help other colleagues who had difficulty building their own learning institution. And this is the spirit through which we have lived as a school and as a people in the community, to try and do things for ourselves and not look at government to provide everything for ourselves. For this, I would like to say thank you very much, Pat. When we later ended, David Rendo, my colleague, took over from me. Actually, after Life Ramatibili, the late Life Ramatibili, and the spirit went on. I would like to thank those who are continuing with the spirit wherever they are, my former colleagues. Swaneng is known because of you. Had we not started through this voluntary spirit, it wouldn't be the school that has grown to this stage. I would like to thank you. But before I go, let me call another speaker who will be following me. This gentleman, Mr. Musidane, is one of my colleagues who started with me, and he's going to make his contribution as well. I would like to thank you for listening.
Bagayetu, protocol observed. I am going to give testimony on behalf of students of the period between 1963 and 1972.
Unfortunately, some students of this period have passed on. May their souls rest in peace. I want to believe that most, if not all, the ones known to be alive would attest to my testimony about Swaneng Hill School and what this great institution meant to us. In the event, or before I forget, by being taken by the speech I've made, and that already I've been warned by the chairman to the effect that time has lost us. I want to also express my gratitude to my father, my uncle, my brother, Mr. Farensbeck, because I was very fortunate. I heard from a friend in Bubonong that Farensbeck is starting a school here in Soroe. At the time, my future was very bleak. I had no hope to go to a secondary school. So this friend of mine pulled me along. His name is Christopher Fipa, may his soul rest in peace. He brought me here. I came for an interview, and I was asked to go back home and sent my testimonials. And before I could send the testimonials to the school, I got a telegram, because then, we didn't have a lot of technology to communicate. I got a telegram to the effect that I'm admitted here. I took the next truck, mind you, we didn't have buses. I took the next truck to Soroe, and you may not believe it, from Bubonong to Soroe, it took 1.5 good days. As I've already mentioned, I was very fortunate to be one of the first students admitted in February 1963, together with Utsurile Pito and others. Swaneng Hill School at the time was truly a unique institution, blending education with work and everyday life skills. I believe the aim of the school was to produce school leavers over a period of 3 years who would be able to eke life at any time through these acquired skills. And this was so with me. But during our time, this school espoused to the spirit of self-reliance. I remember when I first came to school, the first classroom was not entirely finished. We helped finish that that classroom, which we occupied. It took about 2 weeks or so, having our classes under a tree. Remember, I'm talking about today, 51 years, 1 month, and a few weeks. So if my recollection does not serve me well, those who know better, or who can, memories serve them better, will apologize, will excuse me. But we here at Swaneng learned self-reliance. Men, or boys and girls, we are not men then, boys and girls worked together, shared all the responsibilities without watching who in Setswana could put is wearing a dress or a pair of trousers. This became a theme, and I'm glad to say I'm a product of that situation. I remember, ladies and gentlemen and school children, one weekend, as it was the practice, you know, most of us actually, at the beginning of this institution, we are all living in the village. So we walked every day the 8 or so kilometers to school and back. And at the time, we would have left our houses or our place of abode without a meal. But that did not deter us or discourage us to involve ourselves in schoolwork as well as building our school. And in addition to that, every weekend we came back to the school to do voluntary work, only for a plate of porridge and beans or soup, not as a reward, but because we had to eat. And mind you, we ate that food graciously. It is worth noting that even when we came this long distance, it did not upset our desire to come and continue on coming to the school to do both our academic work and voluntary work. I'm proud to see that some of the buildings that we built still exist, unlike those buildings that were, I'm sorry to say, put up by the Chinese recently at a great cost and are not standing. At this school, Paris, everybody was a learner. We had a force of workmen and women in this school, but I would like to make mention of one. And may his soul rest in peace. His name was Hautului. He was the chief cook. And if you will appreciate that at the time, a man of his status would have been an illiterate person. But what I want to indicate here is, even as an illiterate man and as a cook, he did not shy away from learning. He tried his best to communicate with us. I remember one instance when the school was growing, and I think we are about 100. He got very upset because students were wasting water. And he said, look, I'm going to report you to Mr. Farnsberg that 100 students spoil a water. And from that time, he gained his nickname, 100. For his period of stay here in Swaneng, that was his name and affectionately known by it. Another incident that I want to make here, you know, Ronald prayer kita. Haneri tilia ka rawe ya bono dwa utola denglo kawisu ujesi. Kalanchi one pale sheneri hiwali dawa. Yeneri jagadi peruserichi. Neri Jarabari Kupa Himku. Some more. Jano, here was a gentleman, a student who was lean in structure, who loved food. And he always went for some more. And 100 couldn't take any more of this guy's appetite. He said, you know, you eat, but you can't fat. So you see, how to continually made an effort to also keep up with us, the students in this school. But time is not on our side. My problem now is speech. The events of today are different. I'm so excited inside to have been part of this institution. Once more, I want to thank Malume, Reference Becky. You say the worry, Dilodili Kana Boyeo Yabichanaland. Mono Haruna, Una Katiweki. What I would nela Musajo Bukana Kan. Samuel Waresu. Kan nerbona gare Mwayaruna ya Swaneng Itanyelela. Risimulus de Formule le Kotanyana la Swaneng Aminai. Koleka gore so se sones pe go sele se reference beke asijetse mogorona. Gore di tshuretse maikuto ka gore tlhaloganya ko ba tsenya mama. Dikweletse di go di ranwa ke tsone di alogane tsa tsone. Me ba gaetso kopo ya me ke gore a re jaaka re dira e se ka ya nna maiteko a lehela. I got a video of it, relate Hore Kaba Maru, treated as this. Minister of Santa my care of Hore, Ray is Minister Carolina, part of the people who shared this view. Hore Ritter Lake would did as he got Munse, Sasu Perose, sail Hore, look night to Samaya. Releva ko mura relere me irle mura kai wa ka kana rai khata mutala ra boa ra soleta maikuto ara runa reference bank pareis lega sulukan ko kitibes Dr. Maje
so then I can Kilitimelise Winela Moren. Amen. He said Tom Pomo was telling Joti, Kisimon Laka Cosita Rona, Le Mototerita Tona, Mema Benson, and her colleagues, Honorable Mokalake, and of course, Patrick van Rijsbeek, the founder of Swaneng Hill School, with all protocol observed. I just want to mention in passing that I'm pleased to be part of the Swaneng Hill vision. And of course I'm proud and honored to represent the second generation, which we called Hatelopede. It started back in 1973 all the way up to 1982. And the then headmistress was Sheila Bagnall, followed by Mr. Rufus Dow, And I just want to mention in passing that with all the good things we heard about this school, there were some, of course, unfortunate events. One of those being the strikes. And the two leaders of this school, they left mainly because of that unfortunate event. But having said that, the next leader was Mrs. Utisisa Matome, Utule Matome, who led the school for a major part of this generation until the end of her life. May her soul rest in peace. There was a school representative council that dealt with student matters and presented them to the staff meetings and school management meetings for further consideration. Those who attended school then, of course, there was one other unfortunate thing which we found in this school. Those who were coming in for their first semester or first term or their first year, they were treated. And then, of course, I don't want to go in that one, it was very horrible, but it got us to learn and grow up very fast. It was during our generation that the school started using uniform like other secondary schools throughout the country. And of course, there were other very interesting developments during that time. As we had the previous speakers. There were those, the first generation, which built classrooms. But this generation started off with a little bit of change. We had to go through those practical subjects like woodwork, metalwork, technical drawing, art, building, typing, domestic science. I mean, those were unique for this particular school. Each student had to choose two general practical subjects to augment the theoretical subjects, which were taken in any other school like maths, English, Setswana, history, geography, science, and the like. And of course, I don't want to mention, I forget this one, principles of accounts. And there was this other unique subject called development studies. When you finish that one, you could effectively be very, very self-reliant. You would be able to contribute to your personal benefit, to your community, and to the nation at large. Various extracurricular clubs were started under the guidance of interested teachers to augment what the students learned in class. There were such clubs like the science lab, geography, history club, art, debating clubs. And of course, all these, the main aim was really for environmental degradation and development and renewable energy sources. I still, when I was walking in, I saw right at the corner there was an renewable energy facility there. I'm sure if we had that one in place, it could solve with the current problems of energy in this country. In the urge to apply that special philosophy for development, which was the brainchild of the founding father of this school called self-reliance, cleaning was done every Wednesday. And what would happen is, even the maintenance was done. Leaking taps, blown out bulbs and other jobs that needed, handyman or some technician to fix. Students will do that at minimal cost. In spite of the education model, which we called then, or which was called by the founder, the education with production model of education at the time, Swaneng Hill School was like any other secondary school in terms of sports and music. The school competed pretty well and left a very serious mark. I remember we had our principal, Mema Matume, we had a special name for her. She knew it. Usually teachers don't know their names. She knew it, we called her OT. If they did very well, whether in sport or music, or anything which came out, and it was pretty good, when she stood to the podium, there was the slogan which she used to use. She would say, "Swaneng ke Swaneng." Once she says that, we know something good has happened to the school as usual. So having said that, ladies and gentlemen, we have very little time. I think this is the school which was a transitional events during our generation. We saw all these changes, and of course we dealt with the maintenance, the practical subjects as indicated earlier on. In the tests, you were tested heavily. Like they're given a picture of something, then you're told, here's your wood, go do it. You break the wood, you fail the exam. Or you're given a piece of metal and you're supposed to go and draw it. And then when you finish, you could survive anywhere. I haven't seen anybody who graduated from Swaneng School who ended up out there looking for a job and not getting it and not doing something about it. And I'm so excited having listened to the Honorable Minister earlier on saying they are now taking this philosophy on board to apply it countrywide. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I will jump on to invite the next person, Rahumolemo. Come on, so.
Tona ya tuto le tona ya ditsa le mato ne ke ke arman to ka re ke tso tua ja no ke re ke tshwana le ba bangwe le batsadi lo theba le hano ka go thatologana ga ditilo tsa lona tsa tota go boa maruri gore ke na ka tsana go Swaneng le ba ke ba emetseng ba dingwaga tse di boletsweng